There it is. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5:30. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order of business would be public comment on agenda items. Public comment would be 30 minutes, no more than 2 minutes per person. I am going to time people. I'm trying to use an honor system, but it's running to 4 or 5 minutes, so please do your best. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Darlene Netko. I am an English teacher of 35 years, 33 of which have been in this system. Lifelong resident of Warwick, homeowner, taxpayer, voter, president of the Warwick Teachers Union. I see, although there is an increase in what the district is asking from the city, I believe that increase is warranted. The positions, for example, that have been listed in the budget and that the directors talked about last week, particularly the special ed positions, are highly needed. In order for our students to receive the education that they deserve, they need to have the resources that they deserve, and that's what this budget contains. Resources in the form of human resources, that would be the teachers, and in the case of WELC, we need an early childhood coordinator who is special ed certified. That is a must. And we need more special ed teachers at the school level, and this budget includes them. And I don't want to take a lot of time, so I won't go through everything, but I've been coming to these meetings for a very long time. 33 years, as a matter of fact. And I believe that this budget is fair. Now, I am hoping that the school committee and the administration do their due diligence and engage with the mayor and the city council before their budget hearings, and to sit down with them individually, one-on-one, and go over what you are asking, what we are asking. Because if we are going to move this district forward and be an asset for the city, then we need to be properly funded, and we need to be funded in order to provide all of the, as I said, resources that our students need for a 21st century education. And of course, I have to throw in also that we do need the high schools too. That will go a long way also. For those out there who complain about test scores, I believe our administration, Dr. Schultz and others over the last couple of meetings provided data that show that based on our iReady scores, our students, our children are learning and are advancing and are progressing. And that narrative that this district is terrible and our scores are terrible and why should we send our kids to this district, that's an old narrative that needs to be put to rest as soon as possible. This is a district with many initiatives that are only going to benefit our students now and in the future. And the better that the schools are, the better funded that they are, the more programs that we offer, the more resources that we offer, the better it is for the city as a whole. Because older people are moving out. On my parents' street, there are 3 houses for sale, older people moving out, younger people moving in. Younger people with families, with children who are going to want to send their children to a 21st century school system. And I believe we have that. We're on the right path. We need to engage with the city, make sure that everybody on the city side understands that even though we're asking for not me, I shouldn't say we, even though the district is asking for more money, it's warranted. And as president of the teachers union, I will be, as always, doing my part to try to educate the city side and anyone who's willing to listen to me about the needs of this district and what will benefit us. Thank you.
Anyone else with public comment? See Mr. Cody, would you like to do public comment? I'm sorry, I didn't see, I'm sorry.
That's
Please,
okay.
Please,
Okay.
just state your name.
Yeah, my name is Wayne Rodriguez, and I'm a certified athletic trainer hired by Northeast Sports and Training, and I've been hired to cover the athletics and provide athletic health care over this past year on a part-time basis. So essentially, I'm here at Tollgate every Monday and Wednesday. Actually, I just came out from covering at tennis and track and field and lacrosse practice this afternoon. And then I'm at Pilgrim on the Tuesdays and Thursdays and been covering some ice hockey games, which are mandated by the Rhode Island Interscholastic League, as well as some football games, and splitting my time between the two schools. So I've been a certified athletic trainer for 40 years. I was an athletic trainer and professor, teaching athletic training courses and teaching young people about the profession and getting them certified. One of the things that I realized in just the short time that I've been here this year is the very need for a full-time certified athletic trainer at both schools. There's a lot of things that I haven't been able to do as a limited basis. Basically, I've been putting a Band-Aid on, the problems here and just providing emergency care. But there's just so much more that an athletic trainer can do, such as injury prevention, doing baseline concussion testing, monitoring weather, communicating with coaches, developing and practicing emergency action plans so you won't have, so we can be prepared just as the Buffalo Bills were with a Damar Hamlin kind of situation. Providing treatment, counseling for athletes, helping to take care of their mental health needs as well as their physical needs, as well as the rehabilitation of athletic injuries, which can really be a huge savings for the athletes. It keeps them in school, so rather than going to physical therapy, they can come to the athletic training room immediately after school or possibly during their gym time if they can't participate in gym. That athletic trainer can work during the day as well as during the afternoons and evenings. So I strongly encourage you to pass the proposed budget. I think it's $154K for two athletes, for two athletic trainers, as well as some strength conditioning through NEST. Just in my own experience, there's a shortage of athletic trainers right now. So the National Athletic Trainers Association several years ago determined that in order to become a certified athletic trainer, you have to have a master's degree versus a bachelor's degree. This is the very last year that colleges and universities will be graduating bachelor's degrees. Many of them already got rid of their bachelor's program and decided not to actually get ahead and go for the master's degree program. We used to have a lot of athletic training programs within the country, and that's being diminished. And even some of the great programs like Quinnipiac, Boston University, Bridgewater State College, where I went to school, UNH, are getting rid of their athletic training programs. And so there's a shortage right now, and as a result of that, it's going to be hard to find an athletic trainer. And in order to actually get ahead and fund an athletic trainer, it's going to cost, I would probably say, at least $55 to $70K for somebody coming out of school. Not just because you just don't want to hire somebody. You want to keep them so that they can develop a relationship and develop a culture within the athletic training, within the athletic community. It's a great resource. I had the liberty of printing what athletic training
Okay, Mr. Yep, you can hand it to Ms. Tedeschi. Exactly. Thank you so much.
by the National Federation of
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Just please state your name.
Hi, Rob Cody. I just wanted to make a brief comment that, you know, you guys are a public body, and I think historically the Warwick School Department and School Committee, not including the new members, have taken extraordinary lengths to shut the voices of the public out. You know, these are our tax dollars. And I have to say, Mr. Testa, and you and I have had some conversation, for you to hold fast the line that the general public can't ask questions on the budget is deplorable. It really is. It's not transparent, and it speaks volumes that you have problems and that you're hiding stuff. And for someone who knows how to look at a budget, and if you've paid attention to the news, I've discovered a lot of stuff in the city of Warwick that was pretty underhanded and actually criminal and brought in federal investigations. All stuff that people didn't want us to ask questions on, but we asked the questions. And I think long-term, historically, you know, the inability for people to ask questions and to go through your budgets, even to find them online, I field multiple phone calls today, people asking me where the budgets were because they're not simple to find. They're not in a good format of simplicity. But you got to this bad place historically by not doing the right thing. And the Warwick School Department's not doing the right thing. And I'm going to refer back to the Barton-Gilman report. They've told you guys you're a train wreck. That was their quote, fiscal train wreck, right? They told you needed to cut wages, you need to cut benefits, and what did you do? 3 members of the school department, of the school committee, none who were property owners, voted to give out millions of dollars of raises 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. You're not listening, and you don't want to listen. So, maybe I'm the bad guy. Maybe you don't want to hear what I have to say, but I do my homework. And for this body, or any other body in the city, to quell the voices of the general public when it's our money, that's just deplorable. It really speaks volumes as to where your mindset is as business people. Because no other business that I'm ever involved with would conduct themselves in this way. And, I've been in so many board of directors meetings with school departments and the construction of schools that I've been involved in for 20 years. Questions are always welcome. There's no question that's foolish. What's foolish is when you stop people from being able to ask questions. And I think you need to revisit that. You need to allow people to come here. It's our money. It's not your money. It's our money. And I just wanted to make one more statement, and I'm going to go out on a limb and state this, but this upset me. The Warwick Beacon had an article last week about the school department and the mayor visiting the Aldridge School. And there was some pretty hellacious words that were used. And if you didn't read that, the mayor was talking about the ropes in the gymnasium. And he referred to the rope as, that's the sissy rope. Okay? What would happen right now if a gym teacher in the city of Warwick brought students in and said, well, here's the rope with the knots in it. That's the sissy rope for all those kids that want to. What would happen? It'd probably be a lawsuit, right? Parents would probably be coming here with the pitchforks and the torches. He made those statements as a publicly elected official, which were derogatory to children past and present. But I didn't see anybody from the school department coming up and saying, you can't speak like that to our children. Where were your voices then? Why didn't you take him to task on that? That was despicable language by a public official to refer to that. And you people need to do something, and you need to put him in check and put him on notice, stating this was inappropriate. I can't believe that it made the newspaper, number one. It should have been edited out. But furthermore, just to make that statement you know, given his background and his skeletons in the closet to make that statement, I thought was an insult to the city of Warwick as a whole. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Mary Townsend, Wise Union President, Special Ed Teacher Assistant. I wasn't going to get up here, but I want to ditto what Darlene said without repeating it. I do think that, you know, this district should be properly funded, and having been around a long time, and without Mr. NATO to get up here and remind everybody that we're the only district on the planet that pays interest on the bonds and all the other things that have happened to us over the years, I would just reiterate that we deserve the funding and that we should fight for it. My other thing is kind of an odd thing for me to get up here about, but recently we've had a lot of problems for our grounds crew. Over the years, we've lost staffing, and I know that's not happening this year, but there have been an increased number of athletic events that gave pause to some things being said and statements being made. We work together, Kevin Oliver, myself, Mr. Ricks, Mr. McCaffrey. You know, everybody is doing the best they can, especially our grounds crew. Mr. Ricks mentioned he had a Sand Pro, which is like a professional field grooming machine. And we were talking about it. It's, I don't know, 30-something thousand. I'm not quite sure of the amount. But if we can keep something like that in the budget, and it could travel on our trailers, so, you know, it could go from school to school, and if it's really working out, and then we get the new schools, we may want to invest in another one for another, you know, the 2 high schools in the areas. But I just wanted to get up and point that out, that I hope that you'll support our grounds crew by at least researching that and looking into that Sand Pro. And thank you, Mr. Ricks and Kevin Oliver and Bill McCaffrey, for all your help with all that stuff. Thank you. Done?
Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else for public comment? Okay, thank you. On to unfinished business is discussion and action on the superintendent's recommended budget. Superintendent Danbrook, do you want to just say a couple of things before we get started?
Yes, good evening, community members, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee, and my colleagues. Last week, we presented the fiscal year 24 superintendent recommended budget. I realize that the budget has a large ask of over $6 million. Budget managers work with their teams, focusing on their visions and their plans to create budgets to support teaching, learning, and students. They did thoughtful planning to prioritize initiatives and budgeted for resource to accomplish these goals. The budget managers are here tonight to answer questions and to provide clarifications on any budget items. We do understand that adjustments may be made tonight to our proposed budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Before we get started, I just want to lay out for everybody how this process works. The administration put forward their budget, and then it's up to the school department to add to it, cut to it, keep it the same, and that's what our task is before us tonight. My personal opinion is a $6.5 million ask of the city is too much. We could stand here and we could plant our flag in the sand and say we'll go into the city with $6.5 million. I'm not a betting person, but if I were, I would bet the house that wouldn't be forthcoming. I think we have to be cognizant of the entire city in terms of, well, to be blunt, we've been 2 or 3 years without a property tax increase. We have a reval coming. There's a max number of dollars that can be raised with a tax increase. And I think we all have to be conscious of that. So as is typical in these budget hearings, I usually have a litany of things that I would propose to cut, and I'll keep mine until the end. But I would say that the cuts that I've laid out wouldn't affect any of that special ed staffing, because that's too critical. In fact, I don't think any of the cuts that I would suggest would have any significant impact on staffing. But But at the end of the day, and I've said it last year and I'll say it again, I think this model is somewhat flawed because the school department doesn't have the ability to raise any revenue. It doesn't. It's stuck in whatever revenue it receives, right? It kind of lives at the mercy of the city and the state and the federal government. And because of that, the only real lever you can push is the expense lever. You can crush your expenses. You can go to any school system in the Northeast, if not around the country, and you're going to find that your personnel costs are 80+% of your budget, and we're no exception to that. We have to be smart when we're doing these kinds of things, and some things kind of build over an accumulation of years, but we always have to be mindful. We have to be as good a steward as possible over the taxpayers' dollars, and everybody, just about everybody up here is a taxpayer. So I'm just stunned at the way the model is up here. If you go through most of the country, it's not. School districts have taxing authority, with limits, of course. But at least in that type of a model, the school district controls its own destiny. In this model, it doesn't. It just essentially goes hat in hand, like Oliver Twist, which is the analogy I've always used, and says, please, sir, may I have another? And it's either yes or no. Last year, I thought I think the city was generous last year. Our ask was 5, and we got 5. I think to go for 6.5 and expect $11.5 million over 2 years is not realistic. So, with that said, I would ask any of my members if they have any issues or any items that they would like to discuss and/or add, cut, or modify.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Galligan.
first let me just say thank you to the members of the administration who I've bothered over the past several days with the litany of emails I've sent on to you, and I also echo Mr. Testa's sentiments on special education, not looking to make any cuts in that area. However, before we proceed, I am going to make a motion that we suspend tonight's budget hearing on the basis that we're violating our own school committee policies, DBA and DBD. Specifically under DBD bullet point 2, we need to have before us the scheduling of classes so that way we can make a formidable decision, i.e. how many kindergarten classes, first aid classes, et cetera, because then that ties into the personnel and salaries line item, and then also trends. So one trend that I would be specifically looking at would be ridership, right? So ridership of busing, we're seeing a $900,000 decrease in the transportation line item for this upcoming fiscal year. How can I make a financial decision that is prudent for the school district if I do not have that information before me? And last but not least, it also states that we need to have before us a capital improvement plan, which the building committee has not presented to us. We did have Mr. Gothberg, who presented us a fantastic presentation last week on Tuesday evening, a presentation on the HVAC system, and we did take action on that. I believe we voted in support of 3 to 4 schools getting the HVAC systems addressed. And then in closing, in accordance with our city charter and DBA, our own school committee policy, there's no requirement for us to get this budget to the mayor until May the 15th. With that, I yield.
Second.
Discussion. Okay. Mr. Hennius, you're the attorney. I would refer to you to the policy guide. With respect to a capital improvement plan, a district's capital improvement plan doesn't necessarily come from building committee because capital improvements are part of your everyday functioning. So I'm not quite sure that that's accurate. With respect to when the city needs the budget statutorily, Finance Director said to us they need a number for the state for May 3rd because the state has 8 days to get back to the city. And then I think by the 15th is when the city may have to put its budget forward, but it can't do that until it has ours. So I'm going to defer. I think not quite sure this is the most prudent course. Some of the things you're asking for Mr. Galligan are scheduling. Mr. McCaffrey, would scheduling be completed for next year at this point? Okay, so if implicit in Mr. Galligan's request, the scheduling has to be completed, that may not be completed until when? June?
Typically 95% complete when we leave school in June. You have people that move out of the city, that move into the city. We have central registration that works all summer long. And at that point, we're 100% scheduled approximately by the start of school. We can't control when people move in and out of the city. We can't control who's registering we can't cut off registration for public education March 15th. We have to
Right.
accept students as they come, families as they come,
Yeah.
and support all families.
Right.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Galligan?
totally understand what you're saying. Mr. McCaffrey's statements make sense. However, there's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. An attorney's opinion on the matter would not change that there was a second and on the motion that was made. Totally understand that scheduling of classes will not be complete in totality and probably until day one of schools and then maybe even week 2, 3, 4 of next year. However, trends of ridership for the busing with a $900,000 decrease after an $800,000 decrease at $1.7 million to this city in that particular line item, I cannot put faith in that. And then I hear you on the capital improvements piece that the building committee, there's nothing within our policies that say they need to come before us. However, we are bound up here to 2 things. 1, establishing policies and following them, and 2, establishing policy and adhering to that, establishing budget and adhering to that. So if we're not going to have policies and follow them, which the lovely Ms. Cecil, who is not here this evening, back in March, I contested one policy that was put before us, and I said, I'm not going to support this because we're saying something that we're not doing. Well, tonight, are we saying that we're not going to follow policies DBA and DBD? Is that what we're doing by going to our attorney, who I respect, Mr. Hennius? Are we saying that we're not going to follow our own school committee policies? DBA, it follows the city charter. The city charter says 5:15. If the city requires it by 5:3 because of some state mandate, well, I don't think that our feet should be held to the fire. I don't know what to tell you on that. I'm managing what I'm doing and my 20% stake in the say at this table to our policies, which have been before this school committee the past 4 years. So if there's an issue with it, these policies should have been revised prior to budgetary season. And under DBD, bullet 2, scheduling of classes, completely understand it, but how do I know how many kindergarten teachers I need? Ms. Cousineau, poor Ms. Cousineau, how many more teachers do you need? She might know the answer, and don't worry about responding. She might share the answer with me. However, tonight I'm expected to vote on a budget to send on to the city council and stand by it without us being laughed at. I don't agree with that. Trends, I mentioned the ridership, and then capital improvements. Yes, there's nothing within our policies that say the building committee needs to come present before us, but it would have been in our best interest to have that. I don't chair the building committee. I don't sit on the building committee. And capital improvements, we don't have anything specifically in there. You say capital improvements occur on an everyday basis. God, if we're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on an everyday basis, I'm surprised I haven't seen that come up before in Mr. McGrath's report. So I yield.
Mr. Galligan, the capital improvement plan is on file with RIDE. By law, it's on file with RIDE. You want to see a copy of it? Okay, you can get your copy of it. Okay, you're prepared to hold up this whole thing, and because of, in your opinion, there's no capital improvement plan, but there is one.
Not opinion, the policy.
But there is a capital improvement plan on file with the state. Mr. Gothberg, we have a capital improvement plan because by statute we need to have one on file with the state. Okay, and there's a reason we have an attorney here, because you're not one, and I'm not one.
Correct.
And no one else on this body is.
For legal interpretation, but tonight we have a motion on the floor.
Correct, and
It's been seconded.
It has been seconded, and we're in the discussion phase right now. And so, okay, I want to know what our attorney, who is our legal counsel, has to say about your interpretation of the policy, because that interpretation is what you're attempting to put a motion on the floor with. And if your interpretation, in his opinion, is legally flawed, then we need to be very, very careful what we do here tonight. Very careful. Because you just alluded to it a few minutes ago. You don't want to put a proposal before the city
Yes.
that you don't want to be laughed at or whatever, okay?
Correct.
I've been at these meetings for a long time, and when I was a member of the public, I was at these meetings. And I've seen asks of $1.5 million, $2 million become ridiculed. So I'm not sure what exactly the point is there, but I think we're playing a somewhat dangerous game here. So before we move on, Mr. Hennius, your interpretation of policy,
The
was it
Secretary of
DEB?
State would only require this meeting be pushed out 48 hours if you posted it tomorrow. So you could have the next budget hearing on Thursday. All clarifications could be provided, and then we would be able to vote on the budget and have all the figures that we require.
But I'm going to take one piece at a time.
Okay.
I'm going to take one piece at a time. Mr. Hennius, policy DE,
I'm taking a look at policy DBD now, 2, which Mr. Galligan referenced. It says information about the current status and trends of school department characteristics such as pupil enrollment, staff size, scheduling, and other matters relating to the budget. So my understanding is that with respect to class size and staffing, it's not ready yet. So that's the current status or the trends. I think that the way the policy is written, you're not in violation if you go forward with the meeting tonight.
so, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hennius. But the other question I have with respect to Mr. Galligan's questions, you're asking, A, what you're saying, what you're implying is, if Ms. Cousineau came, pick a department head, Mr. McCaffrey or Ms. Cousineau, they come up with a budget based on the staffing they think they need at this point, okay? My point is, legally, who are we to say, no, that's not right? Or no, I don't believe you? Because that's an effect.
That's not what I'm referring to.
But
That's not, no.
behavior
You
never
misinterpreted.
lies. So my point is, that is what you're saying. And then you're asking for bus routes, okay? Busing,
Nope, not bus routes.
ridership.
Total number of buses required based on ridership. Not looking for routes.
Right, and so we determine the total number of buses based on ridership by what the
Total
walking
enrolled
distance
students.
is and total, at a particular given point, right?
Typically given up to the vendor by year's end, which we're
Then how-
about round, and we have not been
So,
provided that data.
so what's your point on the budget? Well, what's your point on transportation? Let's cut to the chase here, because time's going by.
No,
and-
I have those
So-
comments.
So, all right, I know, we have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, there it
So
is.
your motion is to not go forward with this meeting and delay it for 48 hours and have,
At minimum,
at a minimum. Okay.
per Secretary of State
All right,
guidance,
so,
yes.
all right, so we're here, and our attorney has advised us that we are not in violation, we're not in violation as you propose we are. Right? Okay, so that's his legal opinion, okay? So his legal opinion is that, okay? I am in agreement with him. This is my 8th budget meeting. I've been on that side of the aisle for a good 15 of them. I've never seen this before. I have never, ever seen this before. And I'm not quite sure what your goal is to accomplish. If the goal is you don't believe the budget put forward here, and then you want them to go back to the drawing board. Okay? I would argue that I think that's well outside of the purview of a
call a
school
roll?
committee member. Okay? Let me finish.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay?
Well, I just don't want my statements to be twisted or misinterpreted.
Nope. So, I'm not sure what...
There's no
what-
goal here, Chairman. There's
Pardon?
no goal. We manage to the policies. You've got a legal opinion. However, as a voting member on the budget, I'm telling you, I don't have those items. Thus, I will not be supporting particular line items. So they shouldn't be my comments should not be misrepresented in any other manner. Members of the administration can affirm this. I have an email at this time to our transportation department today. Copied on that email, How many people before me, to the left of me, ask me if I have the response to that email? Do you?
I don't know what email you
I
sent.
don't have the responses to 5 or 6 questions. Only the last one. There might have been apologies, there might have been a miscommunication there. Nothing against you, Carla. I'm just saying, I yield. I made the
All
motion.
right. There's a motion
I don't
on.
want anything to be twisted.
There's a motion on the floor. Okay, I am going to call a vote. Okay, and before I call a vote, I'm going to advise my colleagues, that this is a very dangerous game to be playing, very dangerous, and we're going to mar this committee worse than it's been marred before. But I will call a vote. I will call a vote. I will call a vote. Okay? So, all in favor of supporting Mr. Galligan's motion, I'm going to call the roll. Ms. Hazelwood.
Aye.
Ms. Kirby-Chapman.
Aye.
Mr. Galligan.
Aye.
No. Motion carries. There being no other business before this body, looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Second? All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.